Hey there guys, and welcome to the second part of my horror DVD and Blu-ray collection. We last left off with Dawn of the Dead, and as I mentioned, it's a great remake. I would consider this one of the better remakes in a long time. I would not say it's better than the original Dawn of the Dead, but it's a really cool remake. I like the fact that they used the violence, like they just amped it up really high. I really don't like unnecessary violence, but it was a really grotesque and creepy horror film. The only downside I give to Dawn of the Dead, the remake, is that the zombies run. And while it's scary and all, it contradicts the mythos of zombie films. If you watch 28 Days Later or 20 Weeks Later, it makes sense there because they are infected. They're not really zombies. But in Dawn of the Dead, they're dead. They're corpses. They're decomposing, so they're not supposed to be running. That's my only critique for it. But regardless of that, it's a great remake, really cool movie. So there's other movies that I have stuck here in between that I just couldn't fit in here. So, for example, I have here Battle Royale, and Battle Royale, it's weird. They released this only because of the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games has a similar premise to Battle Royale, but it's a very different film. Battle Royale is more violent, and it's more of a, in certain ways, more of a satire. People don't really notice it, but it's kind of a satire. Whereas Hunger Games takes itself very, very seriously. Battle Royale, it's a horror film, whereas Hunger Games is more of a teen action-adventure film. So, watch the first one. The second one's alright. It brings both Part 1 and 2, and it brings a lot of special features. Part 2 is an alright sequel, but it doesn't compare to the original. We have Dead Zone with Christopher Walken. This is a cool movie. It was later turned into a TV series. I never followed the TV series, but this movie's great. Christopher Walken plays this guy who, when he shakes other people, he has a premonition of what's going to happen to them. And he went later on to make fun of this character in Saturday Night Live. But the movie's really cool. It's from David Cronenberg, and surprisingly, it's not as grim as the other David Cronenberg films are. Because most David Cronenberg films tend to be kind of bleak and grim, and this one has a little bit more of a upside. Like even though the ending is kind of like, I won't ruin the ending, of course, but even though the ending is kind of sad in a sense, it's still more lighthearted in comparison to other David Cronenberg films. And it's also based on a Stephen King short story. Here we have Dolls. I just recently acquired this one. I haven't opened it yet. I want to watch this one probably very soon. I remember seeing this as a kid, and it creeped the hell out of me. It probably won't now, but, well, who knows. But, yeah, Dolls. So let's go over here into the other movies. Again, they are in alphabetical order, so we left off with Dawn. So now we go into the next film. Here we have Dead and Buried. This is from Blue Underground. Blue Underground releases a lot of obscure, lesser-known horror films. And this is a limited edition. There's ones that have like a limited number here, but this one's a little bit harder to find. Actually, it's right here. This is the number. And I haven't seen it yet. I heard a lot of cool stuff about it. It comes in a nice cover. There we go. Next film, Dead Alive. This is from Peter Jackson. I remember seeing this for the first time back in like high school, and I saw it on a VHS tape, and it was an unrated VHS tape. It was the first unrated movie I ever saw. And this movie is like really violent. So violent that it's just hilarious. Like the gore is really so over the top you can't take it seriously. And if you haven't never seen this movie, give it a chance. It's just a zombie movie, and there's not really that much plot to it, but it's hilarious. Like you really cannot take the film seriously. So if you've never seen it, I highly recommend Dead Alive if you are a gore hound, I guess. So here we have Dracula and Frankenstein double feature. It brings the Bram Stoker's Dracula and the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. These are great adaptations. They're not my favorite. I actually prefer the original Bela Lugosi ones, and I actually prefer the Hammer versions. But they're really cool. They're not bad at all. They've actually stood up well with time. So I missed this one here. Here we have Deep Blue Sea. This movie, when I first saw it, I really liked it. But looking back on it, the effects haven't stood up well, and I don't know, like it's kind of generic. You know, it kind of feels like a typical movie you would probably see on the Sci-Fi Channel. There's so many shark movies that were made after Deep Blue Sea, but it's not bad. It's all right. So I'm in an uncomfortable position, but bear with me. Dead Silence, and this is an HD DVD. This is back when I actually had an HD DVD player, and it's a combo format, so it's on the flip side it has the DVD. So I got rid of most of my HD DVDs. I did the silly thing of buying an HD DVD player when the format war was on. So they're now worthless, but some of them actually do have the DVD option, so I kept it. And Dead Silence, it's a great horror movie. It's from James Wan, who directed the Saw films. Kind of like a typical ghost story with puppets, dummies in it. So if you've never seen it, I recommend it. It's not bad. Let's see what we have here. Sorry about that. They're kind of like squeezed in together. Darkness Falls. This movie to this day still creeps me out. It's really short. It's like 80-something minutes, but it's a really creepy movie. The Tooth Fairy in this movie is just freaking scary, especially at the end when she appears. Like, you see her true face all burned up. The movie is really short. There's not that much gore. It's actually rated PG-13. From what I remember, I think it was rated PG-13. Let me find it for you. Yeah, PG-13, but it's a effective horror film. And I got this one from Movie Stop. The Darkest Hour. This movie was like not in theaters for very long. It was like in theaters for like 2 weeks, and I saw it in theaters. I liked it. Saw it with a friend, and I gotta say, it's a cool movie. It's not original because it's actually borrowing from another film called Vanishing on 7th Street, but they did a decent job in making an alright horror science fiction film. So it has a nice slipcover. And this one's also really short. It's like 80-something minutes. We have here also Dead Snow. I haven't seen this one yet. This is recommended to me by a friend, and I still haven't had a chance to look at it. Devil. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I still haven't watched the whole movie. I actually watched, I think, the ending, but it didn't make much sense to me since I hadn't seen the rest of the film. So this one's on my to-watch list. Here we have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This is a remake with Michael Caine. It's a cool remake. Like, I really enjoyed this remake, or a readaptation, because there's been many adaptations of Jekyll and Hyde, but this one was made in Britain, and it's not very violent, but the makeup effects they do, the transformations, are really, really cool. So I would look into this one. So now we're done with the D section, and we're going into the E section. Alright, so this is the Exorcist anthology. It brings all of the Exorcist films. Brings the original Exorcist along with the version you've never seen. Exorcist 2: The Heretic, which is horrible. It's one of the worst sequels I've ever seen. Exorcist 3, which was pretty decent. I liked it. And Exorcist: The Beginning and Dominion, both of which they're bad. They're unnecessary. And if I had to choose between these two, I would probably choose Dominion over Exorcist: The Beginning. And it had a troubled production. Apparently, they filmed Dominion first, and Dominion ended up being more of a psychological thriller versus a horror film, and they ended up firing the director and replacing him with another director named Rennie Harlan. Paul Schrader was the original director, and they replaced him with Rennie Harlan. And Rennie Harlan did like a typical, horror film, and I honestly prefer the psychological thriller versus the Rennie Harlan version, which was just really bad. But both versions, comparing it to the original Exorcist, they're not that great. But regardless, it's a nice collector set. I might end up getting the original Exorcist on Blu-ray down along the road. So here we have the Elvira collection, and I won't take all of these out, but just so you can get an idea, all of these are all Elvira movies, movies that she hosted in her show when it was on the air. And it has movies like, for example, you have here Man-Eater of Hydra, The House That Screamed. These are all like really cheesy movies, like late night movies. And I got these for like $1.50 at a FYE that was closing down. And I used my discount, and it even came up cheaper in some of them. So, yeah. And I also have here the 2 Elvira movies that were released theatrically, where she actually acted in Elvira's Haunted Hills and Elvira Mistress of the Dark. I have not seen these 2 yet. And this one right here I recently bought, and it has like a mega movie collection. It has like a whole bunch of, lesser known obscure horror films that she also hosted. And you can watch them with her intro or without them, so it's up to you. Here we have another film which I was kind of disappointed. It's called Exam. It's a couple of people are in a room and they have to take a test, but no one knows what the question is, and they slowly start killing each other. The movie was kind of bizarre, and the explanation at the end wasn't exactly too great. So, okay, now here, damn alarm. So here we have the 8 films to die for. These are films that were released, like year after year. They would release 8 films by, sometimes there were known directors, and sometimes it was amateur directors. Excuse, that's my alarm. So here, these are the films some of the films that were released. There's a lot more of them, but the ones that I have seen Dark Ride, I have seen The Broken, Autopsy, and the 8 Deaths of, The 8 Deaths of Ian Stone. This is my favorite one of the lot. And this was more of a sci-fi fantasy movie versus a horror film. I really enjoyed it. And this movie, this character has to like live various different lives, and keeps getting killed by these weird demons. And the thing about it is, like, he keeps coming back, and he's like in the future, but he has recollections of his previous life. It's kind of weird explaining it, but when you watch it, it's like, damn, this is pretty original. But the execution, however, was just kind of weak, in my opinion. But regardless, it's one of the better ones from the 8 films to die for. So, alright. Here we have Evil Speak. This one's out of print. And Evil Speak, it's a kid who was bullied, and he starts using this computer to summon up Satan. Really weird movie, but this it goes up for as much as $40 online. But it's really violent. If you're into like extreme horror movies or Satanism, then yes, check Evil Speak. Alright, so here we have The Exorcism of Emily Rose. More of a courtroom thriller versus a horror film, but it's really good. I liked it. It's actually based on true events. Here we have the Faces of Death collection, and this contains a whole bunch of clips. Some of them are real, most of them are fake, and it brings volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's a 5 and a 6, but it's pretty much just recaps of previous scenes that were on volume 1 through 4. The first one's the only one you should watch. Like 75% of the film is authentic, the rest is just fake, and the subsequent sequels just have footage that was, reenacted. So, yeah. Alright, so here we go. Here we have the Final Destination movies. Not the greatest horror films, but you know, I have them in my collection. The first one's the best. Part 2, the beginning is the best scene of the entire movie. Part 3, my least favorite. Well, actually, my least favorite is The Final Destination. Final Destination 5 was an improvement over this one. So the third one, kind of creepy for the sense of the roller coaster, but the effects don't really live up to the film. Here we have the original Fog. I don't have the remake because that remake is just downright horrible. This is a great John Carpenter classic. It's a classic ghost story. It has Jamie Lee Curtis during her heyday as the Scream Queen. Here we have 1408. I've had this in my room for God knows how long, and I still haven't seen it. Sorry. Pulled out 1408 again. Feast 1, 2, and 3. I've only seen the first one. Pretty nasty movie. Really, really bizarre in some cases. In some scenes, like it's just over the top. Like it tries to be comedy, but it just comes out really disgusting. And for that reason, I haven't seen 2 and 3 yet. Maybe long down the road, I'll probably watch the other sequels. Here we have like a 4-pack. I got this at Walmart. Brings Dracula, Dark Prince, Mr. Frost, Premonition, and Hell's Gate. I've seen the Dracula movie, and this is the only reason I picked this up because I had it on tape. And it tells the story of the original Dracula, which was a prince in it was a prince in this is embarrassing. Vlad the Impaler. That's the guy. He was Romania. He was this kind of like an emperor, king, and he set out dramatic examples on the civilians. Like if you robbed or did something inappropriate, they would literally put you in sticks. Like, and by that I mean they would impale you. And I won't mention through where they would impale you. So it's not really a vampire story. It's more of a historical film. It was really nice. It was made for TBS back in the early 2000s. Mr. Frost, horrible movie with Gary Busey. It's a vampire film, really bad. I'm not going to mention too much about it. Premonition, it's with Christopher Lloyd. It has some interesting ideas, like it talks about, pretty much premonitions. But I felt like they didn't do a good job in developing the plot much. Hell's Gate, have not seen. Here we have Cabin Fever 2, The Descent, and The Descent 2. I've only seen the first Cabin Fever and the first Descent. I've not seen the sequels to either one. Here we have a couple of other trashy horror films. This brings Octopus, Octopus 2, Crocodile, and Blood Surf. I've seen all of these before, back like in the early 90s. Like, Octopus, it's a movie that doesn't know what it wants to be. It starts off as an action film, then it turns into a drama, then at the end it turns into a horror film. You only see the octopus in the last 10 minutes. The second one, I don't remember much, but they actually use more puppeteering work versus the CGI that they used in the first one. Crocodile, from what I remember, had like a really bad CGI, and I have not seen Blood Surf. So, there we go. This is the Leprechaun collection, brings Leprechaun 1, 2, 3, and 4. I haven't seen these in years. There's 2 other sequels which I don't own, which is Leprechaun in the Hood and Leprechaun Back to the Hood. Here we have another collection that brings Slaughter High and My Best Friend's a Vampire, Repossessed, and Silent Night, Deadly Night 3. I've only seen this one, Slaughter High. It's about a kid who gets bullied in high school and he gets killed, and he comes back to take revenge on the people who made fun of him. Yeah. Another 4th film brings Slither, Altered, Cry Wolf, and The Return. Flight of the Living Dead. This movie was pretty cool. Like, it was pretty gory, from what I remember. In some instances, it pretty much tried, taking its own take on the snakes on the plane kind of deal. Not a bad movie. Don't take it seriously. It's, in some instances, it's like, damn, this really could not take place in real life. I have both the original Funny Games and the remake, both of which are identical. They're shot scene by scene, and they were directed by the same guy. Really cool movies, an exception of the ending, which I really thought it was bleak. I'm not going to ruin it, but it's the ending on both films is just Fright Night, great 80s vampire horror comedy. It was followed by the sequel, Fright Night 2, which is out of print, and it's not the best version of it because it's on full screen. They really need to remaster it. Hopefully in the near future they will. I really hope they release like a Blu-ray of it, because it's that's what I hate, when the studios don't do their job and like release a really good transfer. Fright Night the remake with Colin Farrell. I'm gonna go a little faster now. The Faculty, Frailty, The Forgotten, which is a really forgotten film. From Hell, From Beyond. This is a really bizarre horror film. If you haven't seen it, if you like movies like The Reanimator, any H.P. Lovecraft movie, then I recommend From Beyond. Freaks, classic 1930s movie, and the remake, The Freakmaster. After Dark Original 51. This is like about Area 51, but it's more of like an over-the-top gore, hardcore gore film. Friday the 13th. These are all the Jason films, and I only have the first three. Actually, I think only the first three are available on Blu-ray from Paramount, and all the other ones are available in the deluxe edition. Have them all with the slipcovers. Have here the Frighteners director's cut, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Freddy vs. Jason, Friday the 13th, the Killer uncut version. This is the remake. His name is Jason. This is a documentary that covers the making of some of the Jason films. I think it covers the first one all the way up to the number 8, because it was released through Anchor Bay, so they don't have the rights to some of the other Friday the 13th films. And it was made before the remake. Galaxy of Terror, really crazy film. This was actually, the set designs were made by James Cameron. Damn, I'm forgetting a lot of stuff today. Maybe because it's really late. Galaxy of Terror, yeah, this movie like tries to do their own version of Alien, but they just take it to the next level. Like there's like a scene where this girl gets raped by an alien, and honestly, it's just so absurd. Like you can't even take it seriously. Like I don't like scenes that involve rape or anything like that, but it's just so absurd because the alien, like, you can tell it's puppeteering work. So it's really cheesy movie. The Grudge, Grudge 2, Grudge 3. The first one's the only good one, but I have the other two for the hell of it. So this was section 2. And did I miss anything? Yep, I missed this. From Dusk Till Dawn. This is a Blu-ray that brings 1, 2, and 3. Full Tilt Boogie is not a real film. It's just a documentary covering the making of the first film. Transfer is alright. It's released through Echo Bridge, so they don't do the good job of releasing Blu-rays the way they should. But for the most part, they look alright. So that's it. Until next time.